The purpose of this video is to go over the week 2 assignment. Some people struggled with it. Others had a few problems and were able to get some help and get it completed, and some of you had no problems at all. It's not unusual for some of these first assignments to be a little challenging. It is an intro to programming course, so if you haven't had this type of problem before, it may be a little difficult to solve. One thing I would emphasize though is because this is an online class, a lot of the studying and a lot of the tutorials are something that you really have to do on your own. I do provide the lecture notes and these videos to try to help you along, but keep in mind, had this been a traditional course, we'd be doing these type of demonstrations for 2 or 3 hours each week in the classroom. Because it is an online class, I would really advise you to look through the chapter, try some of the examples there, spend some time doing that, and then by the time you get to the assignments, they might not be quite as tricky. If you just try jumping to the assignments and you haven't done this type of thing before, it could definitely be tough to figure out. So the first thing we do this week is the easy part, which is actually creating the smiley face. So you can launch Microsoft Paint or whichever image program you prefer. I'm just going to throw a quick smiley face together here. I'm going to save this as either a bitmap or a JPEG. The PNG doesn't seem to work as well for me. I'm going to go ahead and save that to my desktop. Launch Excel. Go to my Developer tab. I'm in design mode. I want to insert an image. I'll put it here. If I look at the properties of this object, one of the properties is what picture do you want to show here. Go to my desktop and and select the face that I just created. And go ahead and resize the image control so that it matches the size of the image here. So since I'm in design mode, when I click on this, it should take me to the Visual Basic IDE. So if I double click, the VB IDE comes up, and by default, since I clicked on it, it takes me into Sheet 1 and it takes me into Image 1, and it creates the click event because I clicked, and a click consists of pushing the mouse button down and letting it come back up. Click doesn't have any parameters passed in. So what I want to use here instead is what the author suggests, which is the mouse down event. So I can get rid of this or leave it here, it doesn't really matter. But this mouse down event is what we're interested in, because as you can see here, when you use the mouse down event, it passes in some additional information. That is, which button was hit, whether or not the shift key was being held down, the X coordinate, and the Y coordinate. So this is the event that I want to use to try to complete this assignment. Now, before I can determine exactly where my eyes, nose, and mouth are on my image, and this is the part that doesn't really have to do so much with the program. This is more of just a brain teaser type thing, which is why I gave you the hints that help you determine how to do this. So if I look at my sheet, I'm just going to use these cells here. I'm going to go ahead and use cells K6 and K7 to show me my X coordinate and my Y coordinate. And then over here in L6 and L7 is where I want to display that. So if I go back to the IDE, I can say range, and I want to use L6 and L7. And I want to change the value of these cells. And what do I want the value of these cells to be? Well, I want it to show me the X and Y coordinates that are being passed in. So those are two variables simply called X and Y. So that one will be my X. and this one will be my y. Now if I go back and leave design mode and click on the face, I see my x and y coordinates. So this is the part where we have to determine where in the image each of these parts are. So it looks like the mouth starts at 81. And goes over to about 210. I'll just put X up here, Y here. The Y goes from about 160 to 195. The nose, looks like we got X's between 123 and 165. And Y's from 99 to 147. For the right eye, X's from 64 to 112. Y's from 51 to 74. And here we have X's from 154 to 204. Y's from 52 to 81. So this doesn't have to be exact, and like I said, this part doesn't really have to do so much with programming. It's more of a brain teaser, and because we didn't expect you to have to figure out how to do that, that's why I provided the hints which told you what you needed to do there. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these. I'm going to paste them in my code here as comments just so it's easy to see. And now for the real gist of the assignment, which is what they want to try to teach you by doing this, which is how to construct an if statement. So we're going to be constructing an if statement that tells the user which part they've clicked on. And the way we know which part they've clicked on is, whether the variable falls within these values. So I'll start constructing my if statement. So if x is greater than 154, and x is less than 204, and y is greater than 52, and y is less than 81. Forgot my then. Now we need to decide how we're going to display this. We could use a range again and go ahead and set the value of a range, and that would give us our answer on the spreadsheet. Or we could use a message box. I'll just use a message box this time. I'm just going to end my if right there for now. Go ahead and save this project. And I just saved that as an XLSX, which is what some of you did. That's not good, because in order for someone else to see this code, we need to make sure we save it as an XLSM. That's what the warning was about. So I'll go to Save As and make sure I save this as an Excel macro-enabled workbook. So now I'm out of design mode. If I click around here, nothing happens, but if I click on that left eye, I get a message telling me that I clicked on the left eye. So it looks like my if statement works. All I really need to do here now is just complete it by putting in the code for the other facial features. So I went ahead and just copied and pasted and then changed the values, changed what the message box was displaying. So now we have an if statement. If this is true, it'll say you clicked on the left eye. Used else ifs to say otherwise you clicked on the right eye, the nose, or the mouth. And then if you just say else at the end, that means else if anything else is true, just display face. So if they click anywhere else, it's just going to say face. Now of course there is white space outside of the face, so if you wanted to make this more elaborate, you could to differentiate whether it's somewhere on the face or outside of the face, but this is more than enough for this assignment. So if we go back now and click the mouth, the nose, left eye, right eye, and the face, and of course it'll say face even if I click outside of the face. But that's really all there was to the first part of the assignment. I know that may seem like a lot, but now that you're through it, I think the rest of the things should be much easier, especially if you took the time to figure that one out. I'll show you another thing real quickly here, which is adding breakpoints to this. So if you want to see how it actually works, you can put a breakpoint here at the beginning of the if statement. Now when I click something, rather than just running through the code, it's going to step me through it. This is where I can hit F8. Or in my case, since I'm recording this, I have to actually go to debug, step into. So we can see it stepped into the code here on the nose because that's the area where we clicked. And then the if statement ends. As soon as one of these criteria is true in the else if, the statement ends and it goes to the end if. Okay, the other assignment was to find the square root of a number. We use 64 as our number, and if we weren't trying to write a program and we just wanted to find the square root of that number, Excel does have a built-in function for that. It's called SQRT. So if we take the square root of this number, we get 8. So that's the built-in Excel function. Now we want to try to write our own. So for this function to be available, it's going to need to be a public function. It's also going to need to be in a module. So I'll say insert module. Module 1 as a name is fine. I'm going to create a public function. And a function is different than a subroutine in that it returns a value. So the value that is going to be passed into this will be a double data type, and the value that's passed out will be a double data type. We can call it whatever we want. We're going to pass in a variable, which we can also call whatever we like. And the function will return a double data type. And in the hint, I showed you a couple different ways to get the square root. We can take our variable that's passed in, which in this case we're going to use that 64. And we can raise that to the power of 1/2. That was given to you in the hint section. Another way you could do it is to use the SQR function that's built into VBA and pass it my input. So those are the two different ways to do it. And what we want to do is return that value. So we're going to say the name of the function is equal to the result of that calculation. Now if you didn't know about SQR and you didn't have the hints, you could have searched for that in the VBA help the same way we searched for the Excel function in the Excel help. In this case, since I have my cursor on it, I can hit F1 for help. and it'll go ahead and bring up a help page on the SQR function that tells you how it works and how to use it. So we'll try the first method first just to make sure that works. So now when we hit equal, or if you'd like to go up here and hit this, we can look at a list of user-defined functions. And there's my square root, the one that we just created. The input's going to be the same, the number that's in this cell, and we get the same answer. Go back to our code. This time we'll use the second one instead. Commenting out the first one, this time this one should run. Put a breakpoint there just to see if it's really working. We'll change this to 128. So we got stopped here. My square root is currently set to 0. But we're going to pass the SQR function 128. That one didn't work so well. It's because I forgot my equal sign. That should work better. And if we go back, we now have 11.31371.